Hello, my name is Carlos Gonzalez, and I did my career presentation on news correspondence. Now, what is a news correspondent? It is a journalist or reporter that researches, investigates, and informs the public on current events through various forms of media, like print, which would be like magazine, newspaper, or digital, like on our phones, or televised on TV or services, like streaming services. They obtain their information through various sources, like through an interview or like firsthand or for like public accounts. But before anything is released into the public, everything is heavily fact checked just to ensure that the public is getting nothing but the truth. Now, in order to become a news journalist, you have to complete a bachelor's degree in journalism, obviously. But in school, when pursuing a journalism degree, you'll learn how to conduct interviews, do research, or like what's very popular is sports media. Like you'll learn how to specialize in one branch of media, like that's popular. But what employers are really looking for is experience rather than just that you got your degree. So luckily, Ole Miss actually offers a lot of opportunities for that. Like there's the Daily Mississippian, they have Rebel Radio, like the Daily Mississippian for print media, Rebel Radio for radio, and then Newswatch for just like broadcast. So what they want students to do, or what they're looking for, is students to go and work in those organizations and get a lot of experience working what they would do if they were potentially to be hired. And finally, here, other helpful attributes include speaking more than one language or just language. Employers are definitely going to favor someone who is multilingual over someone who just speaks one language, because they'll be able to obtain much more information than the person who only speaks one language, and then vice versa. They'll be able to spread much more information than the person who speaks one language. CIPST or CISPT. I'll get into that later, but it's just a list of key skills a journalist must have in order to succeed. Then finally, it's just expertise. Expertise just means someone, like you know what you're talking about. Like on ESPN, all those guys that sit up there and on their big long desk, they all know what they're talking about. So, like when those people were being interviewed, they were they're probably questioned on a bunch of different type of sports, and they had to know their stuff because that's a journalist's job, is to spread truthful information to the public. Okay, CISPT, or I was thinking of a fun little acronym in order to remember it. Cats in pajamas, SIP-T. So first in CISPT is communication skills, which is probably one of the most important attributes that a journalist can have. It's just strong reading and writing and speaking skills. Every journalist has to have this in order to convey strong ideas. Second is interpersonal skills, which is the ability to work well with others, building relationships with an audience, interviewers, and other journalists. Second is interpersonal skills, which is just the ability to work well with others or other interviewees or other journalists. And who knows, maybe networking with the right person could land you a nice interview with like someone in power or someone important. The third is persistence. So that just means that journalists must stick with a story or just commit to a story, even though it may be like just a difficult topic. But like recently with Charlie Kirk, or in China with the earthquakes and sinkholes, they just have to stick with the story, even though that it may be sad or violent. The public needs to stay updated. They want to be updated, so they have to power through, put their feelings to the side, and give the public what they want. The fourth skill is stamina, which is just because reporters work irregular hours and a journalist must adapt to those. The final skill is technology skills. A journalist must be familiar with the equipment that they're using, because if it stops working, how do you expect to keep filming and keep the community updated? I spoke with Avery C. Hilliard, and she actually had a very similar experience to this. She was out on the sideline at an Ole Miss game. It was a year ago, and her teleprompter stopped working. But luckily, she was familiar enough with both teams and the players that you wouldn't even know that broadcast went along smoothly. So, 2024, the average salary for a news correspondent was $60,000, and the industry is falling. It is expected to fall 4% by 2034, and it is falling because of independent journalism, news deserts, fragmented audiences, and distrust. Independent journalism, anybody is a journalist nowadays because they all have cameras in their pockets. They can just record, post, say whatever they want online, which leads to distrust because we don't know what's true, because anyone has the power to say whatever they want online. Fragmented audiences, especially in today's political climate, the left and right are very divided, and which leads to people disagreeing with a bunch of political ideas. And a news desert is a community that doesn't have access to local news. So, like Olive Branch would hear more about news in Memphis rather than news that's happening locally. Alright. The work environment for a journalist is very tedious because they are always spending time conducting interviews, investigating, or writing articles, and every now and then they'll have to go off and travel, and they could potentially be like a dangerous place. Like you see here, this guy is unlucky. He got caught in a Category 4 hurricane, and then this woman on the left, she is in a war zone. So some journalists are put in dangerous situations, and unfortunately some journalists travel to other countries with corrupt governments and end up being killed or murdered for exposing the truth. So journalists have to be very mindful about that. So why did I choose journalism? I chose it because I enjoy writing, I enjoy public speaking, and I love socializing. They've always been strong suits of mine, and as I got more involved with the university's programs, I fell in love with it even more. And actually putting myself out there, conducting research, conducting interviews, and meeting new people, it has really become something I want to pursue later in my life. I have conducted interviews with many people from across the country, like 9/11 survivors, farmers, or environmentalists way out over in Hawaii, and then turtle experts over in Costa Rica. So I have a wide variety of subjects I've interviewed under my belt. And just best case scenario, I get to be paid for doing what I love. So that's fine. And I did say I love to travel, and this here's where I took these photos. The turtle photo I took when I was scuba diving off the coast of Oahu, Hawaii. The bottom left is in Maui, which is a beach in Hawaii, and then the bottom right is San Jose. It's a lake in San Jose, Costa Rica. Just a little throwing that out there. Fun fact.